Welcome to the 45th chapter of the book of Genesis. During this chapter, if you hear any unusual noises, we're going through a storm here in Newport, Oregon. I have to apologize for, I can't apologize for the storm because God brings about the weather, but just to let you know, if you hear any winds blowing, everything is fine. In verse 1 it begins, Keuk idhinato Iosif, anecheste panton ton parestikoton afto. And Joseph was not able to withhold of all the ones standing beside him. He wasn't able to let go, more or less, his feelings and with all these people that were other than his brothers. Al Epen, but he said, Ex apostilate pantus ap emu, send all from me. Ke u paristike udis to Iosif, inica anegnorizato, tis adelphis avtu. And no one stood beside Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. Here we have all these brothers who did all these terrible things of when their sister Tamar had relations with the Canaanites, and they killed all the people of Shechem. And then Judah took a Canaanite wife. Reuben took the concubine of his father. And probably this family would have fallen apart, and they would have just intermingled with all the Canaanites the way that they were going. It would have probably come to an end with these 12 brothers, the way they were, and then selling their brother and not caring about him. And they were just terrible, evil men. And I believe that it would have been the end of the story, except for Joseph. Joseph was different. Joseph had the Spirit of God in him. You will see later it's recognized. Well, it was recognized earlier even by Pharaoh. Verse 2, Ke afike phonin meta klavthmu. And he let go with a voice of weeping, a phonin, a phone, megaphone, microphone. Ikusanthe pantas I Aegyptii, and all the Egyptians heard ikusan, her hearing an echo. It's a derivative. Ke akuston ageneto iston ikon Pharaoh, and it became audible into the house of Pharaoh. So Joseph was living close to Pharaoh enough that they could hear what was going on. In verse 3, Ipe the Iosif pros tus adelphus avtu, Joseph said to his brothers, Ego imi Iosif, I am Joseph. Here's that ego imi, which so many people make really a big deal about it in the New Testament. And I am is this typical usage, who I am. Eti o patir mu zi, does my father still live? He asks this simple question to break the response, I'm sure, of them and the shock to cause them, instead of just not saying anything, I'm Joseph, and then that would be the end of it. But yet he lets them off by asking this question, appearing friendly. Ke uki dhinato I adelphi apokrithine avto. And the brothers were not able to respond to him. Etarakthisen gar, for they were disturbed. I'm sure they were, and they're seeing who he was and knowing what they did. In verse 4, Ipe the Iosif pros tus adelphus avtu, and Joseph said to his brothers, Egisate pros me, approach to me. Ke egisan, and they approached. Ke ipen, ego imi Iosif, I am Joseph, o adelphos imon, your brother. On apedos the is Aegypton, whom you delivered into Egypt. He uses the word delivered, a little softer than what they actually did. Verse 5, Nin un mi lipiste. Now then, do not fret. So most people might have wanted to put him all to death, but yet not Joseph. He tells him not to fret. mi they skleron imin, phanito, oti apedos they me odi. Nor let it appear hard to you that you delivered me here. Iskar zoin apestile me o theos, emproston imon. And 1, for 2, God, 3, sent me for life in front of you. So he is acknowledging this whole thing was because of God and bringing that to their attention. They may not even have thought about this Yahweh or Jehovah, Kyrios. They may have and could care less about him. And all of a sudden now their life, they could have been killed if it would have been a normal person. But yet this man has God in him, and he brings out God to them. Verse 6. Tutogar thevteron etos limos epi tis gis. For this is the second year a famine is upon the earth. Ke eti lipa pente eti in is uk estin arotriasis ude amitos. And still remaining are 5 years, pentagon, pente, 5 years, in which there is no plowing nor harvest. So he knows something that nobody else knows. He knows what's going to happen, knowledge of God. Verse 7, Apestile gar me o theos, emproston imon, for God sent me in front of you. Ipolipsiste, imin katalima epitis gis, that there may be left to you a vestige upon the earth. And oh, how this did happen. There's, I don't remember how many left Egypt, but it started with these few people and came out with thousands, hundreds of thousands. Ke ekthrepse imin, katalipsin megalin, and to nourish to you a great remnant, which happened. 8. Ninun, now then, uki mis me apestalkete odi, now you did not send me here. Ala o theos, but God. So I think that these men at this point of time were so in shock, and they realized that the importance of God, that it may have changed their whole behavior to where they were more godly men. In Revelations, it talks about the New Jerusalem coming down in the 12 gates, and named after the 12 tribes. And so it's interesting. And ke apis se me os patera Pharao, and he made me as father to Pharaoh, as God. Ke kyrion pantos to iku aftu, and master of all his house. Ke archonta pasis gis Aegyptu, and ruler of all the land of Egypt. God did this. Spev santes hastening then, anavite pros ton patera mu, ke ipete afto. You ascend to my father, and say to him, Tare legi o ios su Iosif. Thus says your son Joseph, Epis se me o theos kyrion pasis tis gis Aegyptu. God has made me master of all the land of Egypt. Katavithe un pros me, come down then to me, ke me menis, and you should not wait. So I'm sure that these men, when they hear going back to the father, that they have to consider what they're going to say to the father after their lie before. And so here Joseph is telling them to go back and tell him what happened.